On this episode of Machtails From The Cantina, why am I having a fuck of a time getting this cork out? What the fuck? I used to wait tables, you know, and it would always make me nervous when I would do this. On this 14th episode of Machtails From The Cantina, I will be talking to myself. Now, I'm going to be talking to myself, but I'm going to be answering your questions. There were so many Kickstarter backers that had the opportunity to submit so many questions. I'm really excited to answer these. I kind of feel like it's a little bit like Christmas morning, if you will. Again, 41 backers made this possible. There's too many people to name. I'm going to probably butcher more than half of the last names, and I'm going to have to spread this out into a couple, two, three shows. But first things first, I am drinking a wine called Primitivo. That is the grape. It's made from the village Vintner, which is down the street from my house. It's very much like a Red Zinfandel. Notes of plum and chocolate and all that good stuff. That, my friends, is very delicious. Unlike my business partner, Ian, he always says a good beer is better than a fine wine. I disagree with him all the time. As you know, 2020 has been a really rough, challenging year for all of us in some way, shape, or form across the globe. But unless you're living under a rock, you know what's going on. The only thing that I can say is, don't be a prick. Be kind to people. Wear a mask. It's not a political thing. Wash your hands. And don't forget to vote. Without further ado, we are going to get to your questions and escape for a little while on Mocktails from the Cantina. One of the backers, my good friend Sean Hines, who was also on episode 1 of Mocktails from the Cantina. Sean Hines asks, what can be done to unite Star Wars fans and repair the fracture in Star Wars fandom caused by the sequel trilogy, or is it beyond repair and will just need to be dealt with? This is a question that I would direct to John Tenuto, the professor of sociology. Kind of talked a little bit about this, as well as Dan Matson, the former president of the fan club, the guy that started Celebration 1. They definitely gave similar input on it, but what I would say is I believe that Star Wars is in a new era. It obviously is. So I think it needs to just be dealt with. I think with social media, and now you have another generation that is voicing opinions, and I believe some of those are maybe feeling strong about the sequels. Now, I'm a rare breed, man. I did not hate the sequels at all. I know a lot of my friends did not care for them. I enjoyed them simply for the fact that years ago, I always said, I don't care what Star Wars becomes. There was an old article that I read back in the early 90s with George Lucas, and he had said, when the new Star Wars movies come out, it's going to be all politics. People don't think Star Wars is political. George Lucas said the prequels were going to be political, and they absolutely were. When he described it as boring, I didn't really care. I just wanted new Star Wars stuff. I wanted new Star Wars films, and I've always said that Star Wars is kind of like a kid, I guess. It's hard to pick your favorite, and it's hard to show favoritism. I'm going to make a new Star Wars documentary. It's going to be called The Force Around Us, and it's going to be about the Force that's within fandom. And I really would like to get to the bottom of, why the hate and I will explore. One thing I did this week was I was very, very fortunate to take my daughter to the cinema inside a movie theater, which is very, very rare. The last time I was in a movie theater was with her in February. I took her to see Frozen 2, and they're playing, as you know, The Empire Strikes Back was in drive-ins. I had that experience a couple months ago, and it's also in movie theaters across the U.S. I don't really know how long it's going to be playing for, but I took advantage. I wanted to see the film with my daughter because she was my age when I saw the film for the first time. And I just kind of wanted to live that nostalgic experience. And I tell you, man, it was pretty surreal to experience that with her and my wife. At the end of the movie, I was like, man, that is such a damn good movie. It's my favorite film. But then I watched Rogue One, and I'm like, man, that is such a beautiful film. I like that more than Empire Strikes Back. I think I've come to the conclusion as far as which movie I like the most, and I just got done saying that it's hard to pick one because it's like choosing your favorite child. I only have one, so I really can't, put myself in that scenario. But I think whatever film that I'm talking about, or whatever film I just got done seeing, whether it be Empire or Rogue One, that is my favorite film of the two. So I watch Rogue One next week. That'll be my favorite over Empire Strikes Back. Bo Sanders, my friend Bo Sanders, said if George Lucas has retained creative control over the sequel trilogy, where would you expect the story to go? I know he loved Rogue One after hearing the stories about him seeing it and him being very, very happy with it. So maybe the direction would have been side stories, like Solo, like Rogue One. What he always said he would do was 7, 8, 9. So how would George have done those differently? I can't really answer that, but one thing I would say is that I'm pretty damn sure he would have had Carrie, Harrison, and Mark on screen at the same time. Very much like the things we read years ago in the Timothy Zahn trilogy. Let's say George took the Star Wars property back. I don't believe he would completely rewrite 7, 8, and 9. I think he would probably write some side stories to fill in the blanks, I guess. The next backer, Ian Savage, I have yet to meet him in person. We chat a lot through Facebook. He asks, what was your favorite moment or location when you visited the Star Wars location? P.S. My son has a vial of Endor dirt. Going to those locations was absolutely magical. My favorite moment, that's a really, really hard one to choose. There were so many. They were all good for so many reasons, man. Vince was awesome because I was there with my sister. It was the second filming location that I went to. I was filming where they filmed Empire Strikes Back. I was with familiar friends that I went to Tunisia with. But, Tunisia was awesome because you get to experience so many different locations that they used for more than just one film. And I went there in 2005, and that was kind of like, hey, Revenge of the Sith, that's the last movie that Lucas is doing. It's over. So that was kind of like the fan wrap party of Revenge of the Sith, if you will. I just got done going to a red carpet event out in LA for Revenge. Then I flew from there. I flew all the way to London, like the next day. 3, 2, 1. And then I came back, and then a couple weeks later, I went out to Tunisia. So I met some really, really great people there. Some became friends, maybe more now internet friends. And then, of course, going to Death Valley was great because it was the third location that I went to, and I had a lot of good memories from going to, and I was filming my second documentary, which was kind of in my head in the works for many, many years. So that was kind of finally happening. And then when I went to Endor, I had the experience with all the, extras and the behind the scenes people, and I was with my wife, and it's so beautiful, and I love California. So they all have very, very special place in my heart for obviously different reasons. Rich Brindle, another friend. Again, all you guys are my friends that have pledged to this, so I can't thank you enough. Rich says, besides Star Wars, what other franchises do you enjoy? It's been off the record, but I've been known to say that I do like the Muppets more than Star Wars. That might be blasphemous, but I was introduced to Sesame Street first, and I was introduced to the Muppet Show before Star Wars, and I think that was the thing that captivated me the most was when I saw Yoda. He was a Muppet.
My favorite Star Wars movie is Yoda.
It was cool when I was in the theater with my daughter. She goes, Yoda kind of sounds like Fozzie Bear.
Take it to him, I will.
Okay, she's catching on. So I've been a big fan of anything Henson related. And yes, side question, I am happy with the direction of the Muppets. Again, the Muppet franchise is very much like Star Wars. We grew up on it. It's got a huge nostalgia factor. It's in different hands. It doesn't feel the same, but yet it does have a familiar feel to it. I've always loved the Aliens movies, all of them. Jaws, my favorite Jaws movie is Jaws 3. People think I'm nuts for that. So those are some of the franchises that I'm into, but definitely the Muppets. Out of my collection in my basement, the only place that I'm missing room for is my Muppet collection, which is not that big. And I am still a sucker for The Simpsons. Ben Stein's Money, I remember that show. Hey, Ben says, who was the most surprising Star Wars fan you met in terms of someone you never thought or expected would be a big fan of the saga? I don't know. I would have to say nobody in person, but like when I hear stories, I remember years ago, Leonardo DiCaprio had a huge Star Wars collection, a lot of vintage stuff that he didn't have to sell. Apparently he parted with. I was kind of surprised that he was a huge Star Wars fan. But as far as people that I've talked to, people that I've interviewed, I've never really been super sidelined by, oh wow, I'm surprised you're a big Star Wars fan. I think I get that more with music. I have conversations with people about music a lot because that's my other passion. And sometimes I'm surprised about people's knowledge and people's love for some of the deeper cut stuff that I'm a fan of. My friend Eric, who did a lot of post-production work with the Real Fans, he kind of surprised me with the knowledge of music that I share with him as well. Speaking about music, Chris Kowalski. It's on my bucket list to jam with Chris. Chris has been a supporter of mine for a very, very long time. He says, of course it's music related. Which film of the saga has your favorite music? Oh man, I tell you, my least favorite soundtrack is Solo. So disappointed in that movie, so disappointed with the soundtrack. I usually tend to disagree with people's hate on 7, 8, and 9. I'm seeing him be the odd man out, the only one that doesn't like Solo. God, all the music is good. Anything John Williams has composed has been brilliant, with the exception of the main track from Solo. I just went to the dentist the other day, and I put on 3 songs for my cleaning. I'm not a fan of the dentist, so I take a Xanax, and I put on the headphones, and I have Duel of the Fates, Battle of the Heroes, and Obi-Wan versus Anakin from Episode 3. God, it's so complicated to say which soundtrack I like the most. This could probably make a greatest hits of all of them. Even 7, 8, and 9. I was most impressed by the Rogue One soundtrack. When I heard that there was going to be a soundtrack without John Williams, I was like, that's blasphemy. How can you have a Star Wars score without JW? Michael Giacchino blew me away. And I've seen other films that he's composed music for, and I've loved the music. And I'm like, who wrote this music? And at the end, his name's in the credits. And I'm like, oh, I'm not surprised it's him. So I would say that was the one that I was most impressed by, but I usually just like to put on a shuffle of all the Star Wars soundtracks. My next question is from backer Andy Savadeira. He has become a Facebook friend of mine. He is he's in law enforcement down in Florida, fighting the good fight. And he's also a big craft beer guy. He's actually emailed me an inquiry about how we can obtain Energy City, which is a brew that I've had on this show many, many a times. His question is, if George Lucas had one regret in the Star Wars journey, what do you think it would have been? I think it would have been simply selling the franchise. And he was one celebrity that thought the world was going to end. A year later, he sells the franchise to Disney. I don't know, coincidence? If you know you're going to die, you can't bring your money to the grave. Who gives a shit? You know, you can't bring your possessions with you either. So maybe George's head was in a place where he's like, you know, I'm not going to live very long, so I might as well sell Star Wars and then donate a crap ton of money to charity. After he realized that was not the end of the world, but 2020 might be. These are all personal opinions, by the way. All personal opinions. What's a disclaimer? These, the content you are about to see is not directly from the people that produce the show. Well, in this case, it is. Okay, Brad Riverdale, my only friend from the Chicago area that loves the Rays. I want to say almost as much as me, maybe as much as me, and also a music friend of mine. It's on my bucket list to jam with Brad. So Brad and Chris are both part of the 501st, I believe, if my memory serves me well. I wonder if they know each other. I wonder if, maybe we can have a jam session together, the three of us. Okay, so Brad asks, as a massive Star Wars fan, what are your thoughts on the often forgotten 1985 season The Droids, The Adventures of R2 and 3PO? When that first came out, I was not aware. That came out after the Ewok TV movies. The Ewok TV movies, I fondly remember. I always remembered, I thought I looked like Eric Walker. So as far as what are my thoughts on it, I enjoy it. It's been a long time since I've seen it. I don't have any memories of nostalgia related to it. Did you watch it growing up? No, I did not. I watched it much, much later. Do you own a bootleg now? You know what? Believe it or not, I do not. I have 2 bootlegs of the Star Wars Holiday Special, which I just found out there's a documentary coming out on that, which I'm super excited to watch. Do you have any of the now ridiculously expensive action figures in your collection?
Journey to the all-new world of adventure with the Star Wars droids.
No, the only thing that I have in my collection from the Droids cartoon is the Gentle Giant put out those jumbo vintage figures. And I scored the R2, and my buddy Sean scored the C-3PO, but he's missing R2, I'm missing C-3PO. I'm not gonna part with mine. He should part with his, because he doesn't have any space for it. I never took a trip down the droids rabbit hole as far as the collecting goes because the stuff was already pricey back when I started collecting the figures that I needed, probably about, I don't know, what is it, like 27 years ago. And at the time too, I don't think I was super familiar with it, so I ignored it. I don't feel like it's a void that I have to fill as far as like, oh man, you know, I regret not getting those because, like you said, now they're ridiculously expensive. Outside of the holiday special, it's definitely one of the stranger entries in the Star Wars. Yes, it was. But again, it's been a long time since I've seen it. He says he loves the show. Cheers and go Rays. And the Rays are doing very, very well right now. So hopefully we'll go to the World Series this year. Okay, so next backer, Brandon Wolgast asks, this might be an odd question, but I think it could lead to a good discussion. So I will discuss this amongst myself. If you were given the opportunity to help create a new Star Wars film, but it was required to be another one like Solo, so it's a standalone film, it would have to feature a primary character from episode 1 through 6. Something tells me that Brandon is not a fan of 7, 8, and 9. What characters would it be and why? This would be for the main characters only and not the side characters, but it could be bad guys too. You know what? I would really love to see a side story on Qui-Gon. I thought his character was so powerful. The way that Qui-Gon felt about the Jedi reminds me a lot of how people relate to religion. You know, Obi-Wan said, if you just followed the ways, you would be on the council. He believed in the Jedi. He was a Jedi, but he was like the rogue Jedi. He had his different ways. He was set in his own ways. I think that would be a really, really good story. And Bail Organa, I think, would be a fascinating story. So there's a lot of opportunity out there for characters. So Sarah Oberyn asks, Star Wars Jim Henson mashup, which would you like to see? Jareth from Labyrinth as a Sith Lord, 2 Oscar the Grouch as Bounty Hunter, 3 Beaker from the Muppets, the droid. Well, you know what? I would have to say, are we talking like Mandalorian mashup? Kind of mashup? Or are we talking, you know, action figures, a TV show? Beaker was turned into C-3PO. He was a Disney Park exclusive, so that's been done. It was very, very cool and appropriate. Oscar the Grouch, Bounty Hunter. I have a shirt of Oscar as R2. As a Bounty Hunter, really be very fast. He might be kind of, remember like when you saw Bosk in Empire Strikes Back, his feet were kind of hanging over the ledge there. It's like, okay, he's not really very mobile. I feel like Oscar would be like that.
Shuffle, 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 shuffle on the buffalo. I'm gonna take a sentimental journey, a journey home.
Jareth as a Sith Lord, God, you know, David Bowie was awesome in Labyrinth, and it would be very, very cool to see somebody do that Darth Maul makeup, you know, with the hair. I think that would be kind of cool. So I would probably, I don't know, Jareth would be kind of cool. Because I think it'd be kind of new and an original idea. All right, Boston Dan. He's become a friend of mine. He is a hardcore Red Sox fan, and he tolerates my hate for the Red Sox. And I asked him why. I'm like, why do you still like me? Because I hate the Red Sox so much. And he's like, you know what, man? He goes, I don't care about people's religion, politics, or, you know, or their sports teams, who they love, who they hate. He's like, I just want to listen to everybody. I thought that was a very, very cool thing to say. And me and Daniel used to text when the pandemic first started hit. And he was kind of like the first experience that I had with Zoom, and he inspired me to do this. He was one of many inspirations to do Machtails from the Cantina. So thank you, Dan. Boston Dan. It says, what advice would you give someone who is just starting out getting into Star Wars? A, collecting. B, cosplaying, and C, movie watching. Well, movie watching, you know, the first film that my daughter saw was last week, Empire Strikes Back. That was her first movie that she saw. So I started with 5. I don't believe there is a right or wrong way to do it, and I think that people could overthink it. And what happens if you overthink it and you realize that you made the wrong decision? I think movie watching, you just got to go with the flow. You really do. Now, if you're older, okay, that's more of a lesson about having children. If you're older, you know, I've talked to some people and they say the way that we watched it, 4, 5, and 6, was really the way that it was meant to be watched. So I think that's what I would recommend. 4, 5, and 6, 1, 2, and 3, 7, 8, and 9, and of course Rogue One always after Episode 3 and always right before A New Hope. No exception. Cosplaying, you know, it depends on what you want to do, man. I mean, if you want to be organized and you want to, you know, be part of a group, 501st Rebel Legion, you know, Mandalorian Mercs, I think is the way to go, because that group is spread across the world. So you'll always find other people to do that with. Mandalorian mashups, they're only based in Chicago. You know, there's other people that, you know, do the photo ops at celebrations, but if you don't really care about a group, do your own thing, you know? There's no right or wrong way to do that. It's actually not a right or wrong way to do the movie watching either, in my opinion. Now, collecting, gotta be careful with that. You can open a big old can of worms. One of the smartest things that I ever heard anybody say about collecting was Stephen Sansweet said, stay focused, collect only what you like. Because there is so much stuff out there, especially now. There's, you know, I remember in the day, early 90s, the only place that you could find Star Wars was garage sales and flea markets. Then eBay came along, and then Disney came along, and now it's everywhere. Every store you go into, you can go into a freaking auto parts store and you're gonna find a Star Wars action figure. So I would say whatever if you like ships, stick to the ships. But be very, very careful when you tread in the water not to overstep, because it can turn into a nightmare. I have so much stuff right now that I'm sitting on that I bought because it was Star Wars related. There's no room in the case. It doesn't mean anything to me now. And now I have to sell it. So you could make a lot of work for yourself, which is something I have done with collecting. I feel like I've wasted so much time buying and selling and buying and selling, and not selling to make a profit, just selling because I don't want it anymore. I don't have space for it anymore. You know, and then you're just sorting stuff, and then you forget what you have, and, you know, collecting could be a very, very, I would say don't start collecting. If you're not a collector at this point, don't even start. But if you see something that you like, pick it up, put it on the shelf. My next backer, Chris Fisher, a fellow independent filmmaker. I've recently connected with him via Facebook. Check out his YouTube page, Binary Sunset Media. He's done a lot of really cool Star Wars fan film related stuff. So his question is, George Lucas makes the sequel trilogy available. He considers them canon. Do you? I'm assuming that this question means that George Lucas remakes the sequel trilogy. And they replace 7, 8, 9. Whatever George Lucas does, whatever he does, I will always accept. Now, if he does a sequel after 7, 8, 9, yes, again, he considers them canon. I do too. Whatever George says. George says jump, I say how high. Matt DeRochers, he's been supporting me for a long time. He was a backer on this project as well. He asks, will there ever be another documentary to follow the Force among us and the Force within us? He says the answer should be yes. And yes. There is. There always was. Again, like George Lucas, talking about episodes 1, 2, and 3 in 1983. Yes, there was always... I think I got the idea to make the trilogy probably after I got done releasing The Force Within Us. The Force Around Us is what it's going to be called. It's actually in the credits of The Force Within Us. It says coming soon. That film was released, 7 years ago now? How soon is soon? I don't know. Hopefully sooner than later. But as you know, I went on to do The Real Fans of the Saga, which is still being released. There's 12 episodes of that, all available on Amazon. My original idea was to make a location documentary. It was kind of a cheap way to just say, hey, I have all this footage. I'm just going to throw it together and make a documentary out of it. But, I thought about it over and over again, and I've realized that, the state of the fandom. Again, all these questions are great. They're all tied. That's what we do here, Machtails from the Cantina. As you noticed in the past, we connect the dots. And we draw the lines. I think what I'd like to do is talk about the state of fandom, visit a new location. After I did the Machtails from the Cantina episode with my old friend Mark Dromole, I felt like that episode was so heavy with all the location footage that I realized that I just can't rehash all my own location footage and make a documentary out of that. But yes, to answer your question, there will be a sequel to that. Next question is from my good friend Rob Dislongchamps. Rob, I met him through Dan Madsen. Those two go way, way back. He asks, who would you most and least want to interview on Mocktails? Well, I tell you, I would love to have Steven Sansweet on the show. He was interviewed for The Force Within Us, the second documentary. I haven't reached out to him, but I would love to have him on the show. Somebody that I reached out to, my sister Courtney, I reached out to her like 7 times. I even asked her to be on my birthday episode, and she never refused, but she never responded. So I get the hint. Her life is obviously much more private than mine is. That might be the reason, aside from her very, very hectic and busy schedule. My least favorite interview, I need to be very, very honest here, was with my artist, who I had recently parted ways with. I tried to edit his interview twice. I was not feeling it. It will be released to the Kickstarter backers as an interview that goes beyond the 20 featured in this first season, if you will. My next backer, Jeff Ellis, he has been a supporter of mine for a very, very long time. I recall meeting him when I was with my sister out in Celebration, Los Angeles, way back in 2007. And Jeff's been a supporter and fan of mine since then. So thank you again. His question is, over the past decade in Star Wars, what is something new that you've discovered and found inspiring? Could be about my own fandom, Star Wars franchise, or anything in the galaxy. That's a good question. And one of the things that I've found inspiring is my journey with Star Wars. In The Force Within Us, I always said, am I following Star Wars or is Star Wars following me? Well, now that the lead characters are female characters, I find it very, very odd that I have one child and it's a daughter. So again, I feel connected to Star Wars just from that. And again, that's why I love Rogue One so much. Empire Strikes Back was a film about a father and son. I was on my own journey when I rediscovered that film back in 1991, 1992. So I related to that heavily. And after I've, made the second documentary and I found, peace with my father's passing and just come to terms, over all these years growing up without a father and how that all went down. I feel like Rogue One is a story about a father and his daughter. So I just love the fact that I can continue to find a connection in these films that have been part of my life for so many years. I would say that has been the most inspiring thing, connecting, through the films, connecting with the films through my personal life. Now, the fact that I have a child, I have not forced Star Wars, onto her. I let her do her own thing. I probably should be a little bit more, I don't want to use the word aggressive with making sure that she gets into Star Wars. I just want her to come to terms, and I just want her to like things that she likes, not because I forced her to like it. So I'm still kind of waiting for that moment where she loves Star Wars maybe about a quarter as much as I do. Now, taking her to see Empire Strikes Back this past week, that was special. Sharon Sandoval, my next backer, somebody that I've gotten to know over the years. She's been a fan of mine since 2007, since the first film came out. She is also in the general area. I've run into her at the toy shows. The toy shows, God, I missed that this year as well. She asks if there's anything from the old expanded universe that hasn't been carried over in the new canon, what would it be? I have not really immersed myself in the world of the expanded universe. So I don't know if I can really answer that question truthfully. I've read some of the books. Of course, the Timothy Zahn trilogy, I read all three of those, but it's been moons since I've read those. So I really can't answer that question because I'm just not super familiar with the old expanded universe. Some of it, but not all of it. I would say that was kind of my blessing. Was I know a lot of that expanded universe stuff got wiped away when Disney came in. No, that doesn't have anything to do with the Star Wars story. I know a lot of fans were upset about that. I was not, because I was not familiar with it. So, if I read every book and every comic and played every single video game and knew all the characters from the expanded universe, I probably would have been heartbroken. So unfortunately, that's the only answer that I can give you. The next backer I have, his name, I'm going to butcher this severely. He's from Norway. Chand. You know what? Let's just call him Chand. C-H-A-N-D. Chand, and then at the end of his name, it says Moon at Night. I was hoping for a Norway question. And I don't know how he found me, but this guy has backed 385 projects. So I have a feeling that he is a Kickstarter junkie. And I want to thank him for his pledge. He says, do Mini Yoda get visits of Yoda's Force Ghost? I don't even have an opinion on this one. I'm assuming, does Baby Yoda get a visit from Yoda's Force Ghost? The only thing I really know about Baby Yoda is from what I've seen in the Mandalorian episodes. I'm actually a little bit behind on the roundtable discussion, so I don't know how and if they went into detail. I don't believe so. I think that this baby Yoda that we know in The Mandalorian is just the child. That's what I know anyway. So nobody spoil it for me if I'm missing out again. I'm really behind with some of my Star Wars fandom, and I don't know if that's just because I've spent a lot of time, editing and shooting and being a dad, and just life in general. I just don't spend the time immersing myself in all the news and all the gossip like I used to. I actually kind of gave up on the gossip of Star Wars, all the speculations and that, because you spend so much time and energy, and half the shit doesn't even come true. Half of it's just, fans talking about, what if this, what if that? Oh, this could be this could be that. I would rather just have the facts. I don't even follow baseball off season anymore, with all the trade rumors, because it's just a lot of time and energy spent, that listening to all these rumors and talk about what might happen, and it doesn't. I'd rather just spend my energy elsewhere. So, but thank you for that question and support, Chan. Moon Knight. So that's all the time I have questions for on this episode of Machtails from the Cantina. But coming up after these special messages, I have a very, very special guest that's going to join us for a little game time. Something that we should probably rename the segment where Chris throws you under the bus. So stay tuned after these messages.
Luke Skywalker handles his saber well, Ben Kenobi. You should know, Yoda. Yes, I've been the Jedi Master for 800 years.
Yoda and other action figures each sold separately.
Beep, 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 beep. It's okay, R2-D2. I've got my laser pistol. Hold it, Luke. They're afraid of your snake, Yoda. You have nothing to fear. The Force is all around us.
Yoda and other action figures each sold separately. From Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back collection. From Kenner.
Talented musician and my good friend, Glenn Nelson's joining us on the show. Glenn, thanks for coming back on the show. What are you drinking now?
I have a bonus stage IPA. Look at that awesome Galaga.
I love the graphics.
Here, I'll look at the little guys. And it's freaking cool. From Otter Creek in Vermont. Cool. So, cheers.
Cheers, man.
Everyone loves a bonus stage. This is my bonus stage.
You just returned to school. How did you survive over the summer? How fast did it go for you? How's it getting back into the grind of things?
It's fine. This is my 24th year. So it's, you learn to roll with the changes, man, when you're in this profession. And I'm just rolling with the changes. We just started today with the teachers, so I'm still waiting for the kids to show up next week. But we were, putting on our masks and our face guards and all that.
Yeah.
All that nonsense.
Crazy times, man.
Crazy times, Chris. Crazy times.
I had you on the show. You were on you were on an early episode 3, and this is episode 14 now. And it feels like, I don't know, man. It's time is so weird. It feels like it goes by so fast. But then again, it feels like 2020's been kind of dragging us by the balls.
It's been a tough year, man. I fell off the dock when I was in Maine a few weeks ago, and I got pretty badly hurt. So I've been really kind of recovering from that too,
Wow. No broken bones?
No, a few bruised ribs and a lot of scrapes. But you can't really, in 2020, you can't really complain because no one's really going to listen to you. You just got to shine it on, man.
We are all in the same boat together, and we're kind of all complaining about the same things. A little different, but at the end of the day, yeah, you're right. It's like it would be a year to complain, but nobody's listening because everybody's complaining.
Well, it's not just complaining. Everyone's going through a really hard time. So it's you can be like, oh, poor me, but who cares?
But everybody's safe. Everybody's healthy in your family.
Oh, yeah. The kids start tomorrow, actually. So, so we're in full school mode here, man. Just getting ready to rock and roll. I finished a bunch of cool projects in August. I play a lot in the studio. There's a studio in Connecticut that I have all my keyboards at, my professional keyboards.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures. Amazing gear, man. Amazing setup.
It is, and we have a lot of great clients that fly in and out of there, and I get to play on all their records, and it's my honor. So the last week I think I did 3 records for people, just blasted them out. I mean, real fast. I mean, all great, but
session work. If somebody wants to hear,
you're not wasting time. You can't waste time, so you have to know.
Yeah, you can't waste. Exactly. Now, if somebody wants to hear your work, so what's the best way for them to check you out?
If you want to check out what I'm doing in the studio, which is pretty much what I've been doing all year, go to On Deck Sound Studio, which is on Facebook. My friend Tracy Walton owns it, and it's a beautiful studio. And all the artists coming out of there are like the cream of the crop of Connecticut. And again, I'm just honored to be on all their records and everything. It's very cool.
Awesome. So it sounds like you were kind of busy musically over the summer.
I tried, man. That's what I could muster was, a lot of studio work and very few gigs.
That's where the escape is, right?
Yeah, well, music took a huge hit this year, man. It was really, but again, you can't complain, man, because everyone.
Yeah, well, they got the entertainment business in general, just from music to theater to the movies. I mean, everything took a huge hit. And
on the upside, did you see Bill and Ted Face the Music?
You know what? No, it's on my list. I did watch Stephen Colbert. Last week he did have both of those guys on his show, and it was really cool to hear them talk about their experience, talk about their friendship, and just being involved in that project. And when I was listening to their interview, it brought me back to being in the basement listening to Iron Maiden in like the late '80s, early '90s.
Put them in the Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden? Excellent! Execute them. Bogus.
It's funny that you say you fell in the water. I'm glad you're doing okay. I bought a new phone after many weeks, and I bought a kayak, and I went down to the river to get in by myself, and my phone was probably about 3 days old, and there I go, into the river with the phone.
Did it recover?
It is now broken. It is now broken.
And now you have to buy a new phone at Best Buy.
Hopefully I don't.
Hopefully you do. So you can spend all your money on cool phones.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I want to do with the little money that I have right now.
So I can have some.
All that Kickstarter money.
Hey, speaking about Kickstarter and money, I don't know if you got a chance to see these. This is the first product that we got in. This is the bottle opener here.
Amen.
And it's got amen to that on there, and it's a magnet and a bottle opener. So I'm going to send this out with the shirts and all the other cool goodies.
I can't wait for all my swag.
Yeah, all your swag. Hey, man, thanks for being, it's kind of like the Wild West around here right about now. Thank you for being a Kickstarter supporter, man. I did not expect you to do that, but I'm very grateful that you did. I'm very grateful that you did. So as part of your perk, you got to ask me a question. I don't know if you're prepared for that. If you're not, that's fine. You can skip it. You can drum it up in your head. But I did want to play this game with you. I love playing games. What I've done is I've compiled some questions relating to prog rock. Now, I know you have internet access, so don't go on Wikipedia right now when I ask you these. Okay, so I wanted to be fair, so I picked music that you were familiar with. Question number 1. Can you name one band that Steve Howe was in before joining Yes?
Bodast.
Yes, you are correct. I was much more familiar with the band Tomorrow. Question number 2. From the Yes camp, who played in Genesis from March to July of 1976?
Not a huge Genesis guy, but based on the year, I'm going to say Patrick Moraz.
No, that was Bill Bruford.
Oh, right.
Bill, I grew up on both Yes and Genesis. Some people like one, not the other. But man, they do have a very similar sound to me. I mean, when I hear Genesis come on, I'm like, man, it's got a Yes vibe. Okay, question number 3. Neil Peart's band before Rush.
Oh yeah, they were called JD. I just read the Rush in the '70s book by Martin Popoff. They were called
You're thinking of JR.
JR.
JR Flood.
Oh, Flood.
I know you said you're fried, man. I know you said you're fried.
It's a long day, man.
I thought that was the band he was in right before Rush. Apparently, he was in a band called Hush right before Rush. I don't believe they have any recordings. For those of you that are Rush fans and fans of Neil Peart, go to YouTube and check out JR Flood. There's about 30 minutes of music on there. Amazing stuff. Okay, now I know you're not super big on the Woodstock alumni. This is a little bit out of the prog rock realm, but it's related directly to Star Wars. What Woodstock alumni rocker did the Jawas tour with around 78 to 1979? There was actually some legal troubles he ran into.
Jawas toured with a Woodstock artist.
Yes.
Great question. I'll have to just make an educated guess.
He was in a band with names. Think like Emerson, Lake, and Palmer.
Okay, all right. I'm going to say, I'm going to go with my favorite performance from Woodstock. And I'm going to hope that that's right. I'm going to say Santana.
No, that would be actually pretty cool if that was a great performance from Woodstock. But it's actually Neil Young. And Russ Never Sleeps on that tour. And actually, I don't know the specifics, but I do know that he ended up getting a cease and desist from Lucas for that.
Neil Young,
okay.
That was? Okay, all right.
Next question.
Questions.
Next question is, I have faith in you, Glenn. Carl Palmer's band right before joining ELP.
Called Atomic Rooster.
If you love prog rock, Atomic Rooster is definitely one of the most underrated bands in the States. So check them out as well. Okay, I don't know if you're a big Jethro Tull guy, but it's somewhat prog to me.
I love it.
What heavy metal guitar legend played a very, very brief stint with Jethro Tull in the Rolling Stones music movie Rock and Roll Circus?
Whoa. Rock and roll legend played guitar with Jethro Tull in a Rolling Stones movie.
Yes, my ex-brother-in-law was a huge Tull freak, and he didn't even know this, and I had to prove it to him. So I even stumped like a Tull fanatic.
Let's go with.
This is a heavy metal guitar player from London, from England. So think
Peter Frampton.
Not Peter Frampton. It would be Tony Iommi.
Damn.
Tony Iommi. I bet you Kevin Lyle doesn't even know that. Okay, the last question. Come on, I know you can get this. Peter Banks' band after he left Yes.
Oh, yeah, Peter Banks' band after he left Yes. Well, it wasn't Badger because that was Tony Kaye's band.
Yes.
It's Peter Banks' band. Jesus. Oh my God. You really had to get me the first day of school, man. Come on, Peter Banks. Oh yeah, I remember. Flash.
Yes, there you go. All right, hey, cheers to that.
J.R. Flood. I'm disappointed in myself for not knowing J.R. Flood.
But you came close. You came really, really close on that. I would say now part of your other perk was you had to ask me a question. Is there anything on the tip of your brain that you were screaming to ask me? I know we've spent a lot of hours chatting and drinking with each other, and we know each other pretty well by now, but is there anything that...
All right, here's my question off the top of my head. You're hanging off the side of a cliff, okay? Side of a cliff. You're down on one hand. Your wife shows up, grabs your hand, and says, "It's me, Star Wars, or baseball?"
Oh, my wife.
Wait, that was a terrible question. Of course it's your wife. Of course it's your wife. Of course it's your wife. You know what? Let me just simplify that. Desert Island, Star Wars, or baseball?
Desert Island, Star Wars, or baseball? Only one.
Not that easy, is it?
You know, it's not easy, but I would. You know what? You know what? That's tough because if it's Star Wars, right? Star Wars is like a time machine, and I relate to the characters, and it makes me think. Like baseball, I really turn off. You know, I just kind of just zone out and watch. So how long am I on this desert island for?
Forever, but you can have a TV that has all the new baseball forever, or all the new Star Wars forever.
You know what? I got to go Star Wars, but always my wife. Always my wife.
Well, yeah, that was dumb. I was back.
Well, no, if you asked me that during my first marriage, I would have said Star Wars.
Anyway.
Hey, man. Well, hey, good luck during the school year. Good luck to you, man.
Thanks, man.
And I hope everything works out for you. I hope that your kids and your family stay healthy, and I hope that you don't get too strung out with the way that they've just complicated things with the learning system now. You know, I mean, it's got to be a pain in the ass for you.
Like I said, man, teachers are resilient, man. We'll get through it.
Amen to that.
We'll all get through it. Well, you know, we'll ride this this second wave thingy's out. Maybe it's nothing, but we'll ride it out. And dude, I bet you by January, I bet you most things are, you know, some things will never come back, but I bet you most things will come back. So I'm optimistic, man. I have to be, man. I was raised on Star Wars and music and friendship and laughter and love, and like these are the things that I was drawn to. You know, I just like I can't. It's you know, it's funny. You get depressed. Even though I don't get depressed because I know people that are depressed, but like I get bummed out. You know.
Yeah.
Bummed out, and I get emotional, but these things pass, man. You just keep on keeping on, brother.
You know, a friend of mine too, Bo Sanders. You might know Bo from the Star Wars circle.
Love Bo.
You know, I realized that I lost in this year. Okay, in the first 8 months, I've lost 8 people that were part of my life. Nobody passed from COVID-19. But Bo was like, you know what? You know, he's like, hang in there. He's like, even the lowest of lows passes. You know, I mean, the highest of highs will pass. Like George Harrison said, man, all things shall pass. I mean, it was true back then. It was true years before, and it's still true, especially in 2020. You know, so
yeah, it'll pass. You know,
keep fighting the good fight, man.
You too, man. God bless. I'm glad the year was good for you with a Kickstarter and a new show. And
yeah, thanks again for being a part of it. I really appreciate it.
Punches. You know, everyone who's smart and creative and clever finds a way to roll with the punches, right?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. All right, hey, take care, my friend. It's always good to see you. Stay in touch.
With you.
Hey, everybody, thanks for joining us. We will see you next time on Machtails from the Cantina.
You can take Star Wars with you. It goes wherever you go.